Mr. Primetime, how are you?
I've been better. I thought we were doing this at 8 o'clock, so I blame you for me being about 5 Trulies deep right now. So this video is going to get interesting with everything that happened in the scrimmage today.
Well, first off, what we want to do is we want to thank everybody for listening last night. We broadcast live every Tuesday night. Once the season starts, we do Friday nights. And we're going to add, this is where our pressure's on you. We're going to do a live stream after the game. So after the game, we're going to do another broadcast, me and you just reacting. That should be fun. Be live on YouTube and Facebook, and we're working on that. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
With us. I mean, this is working.
Yeah, I'm excited for that because, Tuesday we just get to, listen to everybody on the phone. But, doing something in person, I think that'll be really cool, especially after the games, getting the reactions from everybody, which, should
20 beers deep.
Seriously. So when we win, it should be good. But on the losses, that's going to be interesting. So.
Yeah, so last night, the one thing that everybody was commenting about was how normal everything is. There's no drama, and there's no egos, and there's no problem. All for one, one for all. Everything, it was smooth sailing, and it was so refreshing. It was so nice.
Yep.
It was so great.
About 12 hours, right?
Why is it just never fucking easy, dude? I don't understand. But before we go into that, we're going to stay to the end. Here's the thing. A lot of the things that happened today were kind of expected. Now, there's so many moving parts. There's so many injuries. So when you look at the biggest story today was the second string team dominated the first string team on both sides of the football. Here's my first point about that. You know how many of those guys are playing for a roster spot right now, and they're trying to make a difference and get the coach's attention because there are no preseason games. This is their film, dude. This is your chance to show what you got, where a lot of the starters will be like, hey, you know what? We're going to try, we're easing back into it. So I think, first of all, that's a big part of it. The second part of it is you have all these injuries, and you're decimated, and here we are.
You're really trying to sell me on second-team players right now?
Yeah, I think you know what? Because that's the one thing that nobody's talking about at all. You have all these guys out there that are trying their way to make the team, dude. Like, you have no other film to show other than live contact drills.
And that's great. And that's great. And Bart Scott, he was even talking about this on WFAN a couple days ago, where sometimes you have these young kids that come in going 100 miles an hour, where some veterans are just trying to get through.
That's what he did.
Exactly. So I'm not taking too much stock into, second team guys and what they're doing right now. I want to see them do it in real games. I'm more concerned with the fact that our first team offense is getting stopped by our second team defense. That on 6 drives today, they didn't produce anything.
Nope.
That's a problem.
But was anybody expect? Why are we surprised? No Perryman, no Mims. Then Van Roten gets hurt. I mean, what exactly are we expecting here? Let's summarize today's practice. The offense sucked, and we had no pass rush. No shit. That's the same thing we've been for how long? So we've said last night in the show, we have a concern because we have no pass rushers. Voila, there's that. We have concerns that the offensive line needs time to gel, and there's no receivers. The offense could struggle. Sam could play like shit. Boom. So what we thought's going to happen is exactly what happened. Why are people surprised? And you add in the injuries, you add in all this other shit. Like, I'm not surprised at all, dude. Like, this is what you expect, especially when this is your first quote-unquote scrimmage with referees.
I'm not surprised, but I'm frustrated to see it happening because I was hoping to see some of these younger guys stepping up a little bit, especially with the first-team offense. We've been talking ad nauseum about how this is Sam Darnold's year. It's Adam Gase's year to show us. And how do you properly evaluate if he doesn't have the pieces around him to do what he needs to do? If Jeff Smith isn't getting turned around on routes that are leading to interceptions, you can't evaluate him that way. And
it's so early. It's so early. The problem. See, it's early, but it's not early. They have 18 days, which 18 days is not really that many days. But if this problem is happening, say 9 days from now, then you start shitting your pants because then you're like, we're in now prep mode for the Bills, and we still can't figure out how to block anybody. Our own team, who we should know how to block, so we see the guys every day.
My issue is that they're wasting time. In this crazy offseason where you don't have a preseason, every day is it's more valuable. And to have, Chris Hogan and all these other guys that are out there, it's not enough. And you have cap space. You have plenty of draft picks over the next 2 years. I'm not saying, give up a first-round pick to go get somebody, but you have plenty of additional draft picks. You have plenty of cap space. Yep. There's no reason not to go out there and get a Taylor Gabriel, Demaryius Thomas, somebody.
49ers are signing a receiver every fucking day. Like I want to see the roster, like the waiver wire, the moves. The 49ers are signing receivers almost every day, trying to figure out how to find solutions. The Jets sign a goddamn tight end and a fucking running back.
Not to mention Deontay Burnett having a great camp with the Eagles. I'm sure you heard about that.
Like, I'm not even worried about him, but like, it's just like
it was a guy. It was a guy that was in house that knew Sam Darnold.
So was Demaryius Thomas. Like I'd rather have Demaryius Thomas than Jeff Smith at this point.
But you know what? But still, Deontay Burnett, that pisses me off though, because that was a young guy that knew Sam Darnold from USC. He was having a great camp last year, and we cut him before he even had a chance to show anything. Same thing with Greg Dortch. At what point do we hold on to some of these younger guys and actually give them an opportunity? It's dude.
Yeah,
we're relying on Braxton Berrios right now. I mean, that's
why it's sort of like, oh, well, Braxton Berrios had a big day. Like I was going through the list here. It says what Braxton Berrios, Frank Gore looks explosive, P. Ryan looks explosive, but it's like it's just I don't know, man. Like this is what I expected. Like I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised by this. Like I'm annoyed about some other things that we're going to talk about shortly, but the other thing you look at is the backup quarterback battle. Like all of a sudden, like there were, Mike White's outplaying David Fales. Flacco's nowhere to be found. And it's just funny to me that we know this now, that the first, say, 3 weeks of the season, Flacco's not going to be ready.
Yeah.
It's safe to say that. And the Jets are okay with that. They're okay with going with a fucking backup quarterback that has no experience whatsoever. That's mind-blowing to me.
Who are they going to bring in, though, right now? I mean, I agree with you.
But the whole plan altogether is just stupid.
If Sam Darnold's not playing, we're fucked no matter what. So at this point, who cares? I mean, honestly.
Why are we mailing in? This is the same thing. Dude, what they're doing this year is the same thing they did last year. But last year, they had Trevor Siemian, who was actually healthy at the time. But once they gave just Luke Falk, they quit. And right now they're saying Sam Darnold or bust for the first 3 weeks because Flacco's not there. Like, why not have a quarterback there that – see, God, especially all this COVID shit, dude, and the false negatives and everything else, why not have an insurance policy say, okay, listen, Joe, we know that you're a Super Bowl MVP and all this other shit, but you're not ready to play. We got to bring somebody else in there that we know can play if Sam can't for the first 3 weeks. We have to have a capable backup in place, and they don't want to do that. Don't understand that at all. But you look at today's results, the running backs, this whole thing with – I mean, Gase's love affair with Frank Gore is making me insane because we have no drama, right? Le'Veon Bell has been a class act, a workhorse, like a leader upon leaders that turned about like work ethic, determination, all about the team, called out Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams acted like an asshole, did all the right things, talking about, hard work. He did everything right. Wants to play, wants to win, best shape of his life, motivational videos. Everything is right. The guy wants to play in practice. They take him out. Fucking Gase says he had a tight hamstring. Like, why even lie? Like, what are we lying about? Why cause this problem with your best player, the face of your franchise right now, because you have nobody else? It's not Sam Darnold. It's Le'Veon Bell. Why are we fucking with him? Why? Like, what purpose does this serve? You don't need to motivate him, dude, because guess what? He's already motivated. He's in the best shape of his life. So what are we doing? Like, why have the circus in the media? Why piss him off, make him react in social media, and then the Jets circus act is back in town again? And it's all could be avoided. And then he has the balls to say, you know what? Le'Veon has tight hamstring, but Frank Gore, man, he looks like he touts like this guy's like the, dude, I don't understand. I don't understand Adam Gase at all, dude. Why are we doing this?
Aside from the development of Sam Darnold, I think we all agreed that, like, the one thing we were going to judge Adam Gase on this year was just how he got players to buy into his system, just the communication aspect, like all those little things, right? Can he get guys to buy into his program, be a leader, like all the red flags that we saw in year one, we kind of wanted to feel like, all right, that was just, shit going wrong, Sam getting mono, injuries, everything that went wrong could have gone wrong. So I think we've been pretty fair on this show, giving him a clean slate entering this year. We haven't bashed him, week after week.
We gave him credit for handling the handling of Jamal Adams.
Exactly. So to be at this point, before a game's even been played yet, in fucking practice, in a scrimmage, you have this issue where another player has to take to social media on top of Quincy and Jamal and Osemele and everyone else that's already had an issue in, 16 months that he's been employed here. You have another star player who has come into camp, like you said, he's been a leader, done everything the right way, and he feels already, before a game's even been played, he feels the need to go on social media to say, no, the shit that you're putting out there in the media is false. Like, that's a problem. That's a lack of communication. It's a lack of common sense.
And that's something like, when it happens on the practice field, you should say, hey, Le'Veon, we're going to take you out because we want to preserve you. Or he can say, hey, coach, I still want to play. But to come out and say he's injured, the guy's like, I'm not injured. I'm fine. Like, yeah. And the other thing is that, and then we talked about this last night, and there's something that you can't overreact or not like under analyze, whatever it is these guys at some point need to get hit. Like, you don't want to go into week 1 barely being touched, especially as a running back, linebacker. These guys need to get you got to break that in, man. Like, it's just, and he said that. He's like, listen, at some point with no preseason games and none of this stuff and like only in shells half the time and only 10 practices, you get thumped a couple times. You want to get in that football shape, and that's what he needs. He's saying he needs it. So if your player says he needs it and he's a Hall of Fame caliber running back, guess what? He fucking needs it. So why are we playing games?
That's exactly the point. That, especially with veteran players, you have to kind of gauge those guys individually, I think. You know, we've seen training camps before where a lot of veteran players, you know, like David Harris, like towards the end of his career where, you know, he's up on the reps with them, and that's perfectly fine. A player like Le'Veon Bell who tells you, I need reps to be in shape for week 1, to be out here trying to say, oh, he had a hamstring injury, and 3 hours later he's like, no, I was fine. I was ready to go. And this being like the only opportunity you have for like semi-real life competition, like what the fuck are we doing?
It makes no sense, dude. And it's like, and it's funny because it's like, just think about this here. Like this, and if you guys don't like this video for too negative, I really don't fucking care. This is what you have. You have a 27, 28-year-old guy in the best shape of his life that you don't want to give reps to for whatever reason, and you're featuring Frank fucking Gore, who's 37 years old. Like, what do we do? Like, could you be any more? That's typical Jets right there. Thankfully, P. Ryan has showed his explosive and all this other stuff, but dude, we've talked about this endlessly with the injuries at wide receiver. This offense is all about work through Le'Veon Bell and Chris Herndon. That is the only way right now this team is going to thrive, and Crowder. And you don't even let their practice when you only have 2, like this one, maybe one more scrimmage, a green and white scrimmage over the weekend. That's all they have, dude.
He looks like he did 12 years ago. You got to feed him the rock.
So you got that. I'm going through the notes here. I wrote down notes.
Can we talk a little bit more about Van Rotten? How we got rid of Brian Winters before the season starts, and now, you know, we're rotating who? Jonathan Harrison and Josh Andrews and rookie Cameron Clark.
Who's hurt.
Yeah,
with a bum shoulder.
What was the point of that? I mean, I get it that Winters, he's been hurt 2 of the last 3 years, and, you know, he was making a little bit of money, but I mean, if we're talking about protecting Sam here, come into the season with as many guys. Yeah, absolutely. And again, I don't know how serious this injury is, but you're talking about an oblique. I mean, that's usually not something that you come right back from. So exactly. So
it's the first thing I said. And what did we say? Brian Winters was in camp. He passed his physical. He passed all tests. He was actually practicing. He was actually here doing the conditioning drills. And all of a sudden you cut him. Like, and what did we say? With all these players, wait to see what you have first before you cut them. There's no reason to cut them now because you know what? Hey, in case somebody went down. Like the Jets,
especially in this season.
And that's exactly the same thing happened with C.J. Mosley. They got lucky that they didn't cut Avery Williamson because then they got rid. Same thing happened with Brian Winters. You hold on to him because you're a veteran line depth, and they've already had some injuries there to begin with. McDermott, all these other guys. Cameron Clark comes back, but he's got a shoulder harness on. I mean, it doesn't – the roster manager there is kind of questionable, and now you got to hope Van Roten is somewhat healthy because now guess what? You have another starter. So we're trying to replace 4 out of 5 starters, and now you're replacing one of your replacements. Like, what are we – it's just – what? I don't know, man. Like, and then what's the other notes here? We got
Lawrence Cager.
Oh, and the other thing, the Jets. This video is gonna write this shit. It is because you think about, they're almost like the Mets. Because the first thing with Perryman was he banged up his knee. He should practice tomorrow. This was a couple days ago. The next day, he's like, oh, he's out till Saturday.
Yep.
Then Cager should be all right. This and that. Oh, he had swelling last night. Now he's out for God knows how long.
Dude, that. Literally what you just said, that is classic Mets, where, you know, it's a minor injury. Hey, they'll be back in 2 or 3 days. We'll let them pinch run, pinch hit. They come back, they play for a day or 2, and then they're on the 15-day deal. That's how it always happens with the fucking Mets. And, yeah, sucks to see it with Cager, especially after 2 great days of practice. You know, he had a couple of days where he was making some plays. You start thinking, all right, maybe he might get elevated, first-team reps. Yep. And now you're this. It's like –
and now your problem is that these young guys like Cager, they need every rep they can get because – you know, there's limited practice time. You miss a week here, then you're down to 11 days of training camp left, which is basically 4 because the last week is game prep.
Yep.
Time is of the essence, man. Like we always talk about that, you know, availability and all this shit. This is it, that you need to be on the field. And
well, I mean, it's an opportunity for guys like Berrios and those that are out there. But, you know, even Jeff Smith, who, you know, some people had high hopes for. I mean, he hasn't been doing much, you know, not knowing the playbook, not running the right routes, not turning around. I mean, Jesus, dude, it's just not ideal.
I mean, so I'm going to go through the injuries. I mean, there's and then Basham's hurt now too.
Yeah, it's sprained ankle, right?
So we got the other thing, Ashton Davis, obviously is showing a lot of great range, which is good. The safeties, McDougal is obviously becoming a leader now. He's a very prominent presence in the locker room, speaking out about all the things that are going on. He's obviously just very good leadership role there. Marcus May's having a phenomenal camp. And then it's just the biggest story is how bad the offense was. And it's just, I'm not surprised, dude. I'm just not. It's, let's say, August 26th. Give me a week. If we're talking about this Labor Day weekend, start panicking because then all our nightmares are coming true.
Dude, at this point, just to see the stuff with Bell and Gase, I mean, but before the games are even being played, to already see the seeds kind of being planted for the dysfunction and the back and forth, dude, you better hope that you get off to a good start this season because this has the makings of just being one of those years like in 2016 with the offense, defense, Marshall, Sheldon. You can already see things like it.
Well, what needs to happen, let's be honest here. If Adam Gase has learned anything, right after that tweet from Le'Veon Bell where he's like, I want to play, I want to practice, I'm healthy, what Adam Gase does, because we know he's got a burner account, he calls Le'Veon Bell tonight and says, listen, dude, they got to squash it tonight.
But why are we always reactive instead of proactive? Why don't we see these things coming? He doesn't think that if he goes to the media saying that, Bell has a hamstring injury when he had nothing going on, that it wasn't going to be an issue. We don't use he doesn't use common sense in these situations. That's why all these players have issues with him. And again, I'm trying not to be negative with him. I really wanted to come into this year with just a clean slate, let him and Darnold do their thing and see if they progress and we'll evaluate him at the end of the year. I don't want to be bitching week after week about Gase, but dude, to have this stuff going on before we got to week one already,
you can't make it up. You sit there and it's the worst thing is it's hard to be a Jets fan. It really is. It's very, very difficult because what happened was I was sitting at work and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up. I'm like, I'm like, oh my God, somebody must have gotten hurt because there's no, your phone blows up. It's usually a really bad injury or somebody gets cut or something like that. And I see it's Gase and Le'Veon Bell going back and forth. I'm like, why? We've already been through this. This could be avoided and we could be the silent team that just goes hard work. Nobody says a word, and we come out and just try to prove everybody wrong. We don't need this shit. It just makes no sense, man. And it's he's the only star player on the team. Think about it. He's the only star, the only guy we have left on this team. It's a monumental player, and this is what's going on. Well, thank God we got Frank Gore because he's younger than ever. I don't understand it, man. I'm hoping that Adam Gase comes out tomorrow and just says, listen, I made a mistake. Just own it.
Yeah, own it. Yep.
Own it. And you know what? Because right now, the media's picking on him, we're picking on him, and he can either make this 10 times worse by doubling down on what he said, or say, you know what, I made a mistake. I thought he was hurt. He wasn't. We made a mistake. Whatever else. And let everybody move on. Don't double down on this shit and make it worse because this is going to carry on. And now the thing is, right now, the sports media is so desperate for news because there's nothing else going on, dude. And the news that's coming out of training camp is very limited. They can't report a lot of things. So you give them a glimmer of hope of some kind of story or chaos, they're going to run with it. And so are we, because what are we going to do? We haven't talked about it either.
But I got to ask, how does that mistake happen, though?
From a veteran coach.
Like you just
went through it last year.
Like you just said, he's our only star player. So how does that mistake actually happen if he is feeling 100% fine to practice in one of your only two scrimmages?
I don't understand.
How do you not have a conversation like, dude, you all right? And he would say, all right, I'm good. I'm ready to go. Okay, cool. You're back out there. That's what you would think would happen. But no, you're just going to put Frank Gore in there and not have a conversation with him and then go right to the media and say, yeah, he's hurt.
And then the other story, and then the other thing that's going to happen too, and you already saw it today, and this is going to concern me because this is the problem of playing for the New York Jets in New York. This is the number one problem. Excuse me. Is Sam throws that pick to Ashton Davis, which apparently was a terrible interception. Yep. And it was we got to see better out of Sam. We got to see better out of this and that. I'm like, let's ignore the fact that every reports that the offensive line was horrendous. They was sacked 3 times or 4 times. Let's ignore the fact that he's got no receivers to work with. And this is not called excuse making for Sam Darnold. These are just called facts. Yep. So when none of us even see the play, we don't know what the whole surrounding environment is. There's already a story out. This is not a good start for Sam. This is why we got to, he's in a make or break year.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Connor Hughes, when he tweeted out about that play, he said that Jeff Smith didn't get turned around at all. Yeah. So that's the second interception that Darnold's thrown that had something to do with Jeff Smith.
And what's the bigger story? Jeff Smith being a shitty receiver or Sam Darnold can't throw the football? What gets more headlines?
Seriously, I know.
And what do fans do?
The headline should be about Sam Darnold throwing to Jeff Smith in, first team reps.
Yeah.
That's an issue.
Yeah, is people cherry pick the headline. They don't read the story. And it's like, fucking Sam Darnold. We knew it. This not. No. Look at all the things that are involved in this. And listen, I'm not a Sam Darnold apologist, but we got to keep in mind what the hell he's dealing with right now. And it's not just us, dude. Ross Tucker, Dan Orlovsky, every fucking analyst is saying the same thing. This kid is not in a good position right now. And they got to get smoke and mirrors, keep him alive, and let him flourish.
Yeah.
And that's why the results don't surprise me, dude. What's surprising you right now?
Nothing. It would be one thing if you're talking about a 27 or 28-year-old Sam who's been there for a couple of years, who knows, the offense. He's been with a head coach for a couple of years. Fine. You have a couple of holes. He's good enough to overcome that. At 23 years old, entering the second year in Gase's system, he's not ready to do that. Not at this stage, no. And you're not giving him a chance at this point. So you're just wasting days in a limited training camp with no preseason. So I don't know what you really expect.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is that, we also got to keep in mind that it's preseason, it's only these little scrimmages, shit like that. And a lot of times what we see here doesn't translate to the field. Because last year, this time, Ty Montgomery was a fucking superstar. And we're like, oh, my God, this guy can do it all. We're going to feature him. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then the lights came on and he didn't even play. So it's great that Ashton Davis is playing well as a rookie. There's a great P. Ryan showed his speed, which we desperately need the running back position. Because explosive as Gore is, you need a speedster that I was hoping that, Josh Adams or Trenton Cannon, whoever it was going to be. So that's great. But, we got to temper that too, where it's like, listen, there's going to be a much bigger challenge when they face the Buffalo Bills week 1 than what they're seeing today in Florham Park.
Yeah,
so,
that's something that you worry about on both sides of the ball, where it's like, how much is the defense really getting tested going up against these wide receivers? How much is the offense really getting tested going up against no pass rush?
I mean, if our first string defense can't get a sack against a second string offense, that's a goddamn problem.
Yep. And if our offense can't move the ball on the second string defense with these corners that we have, that's an even bigger issue, I think. So
it's like you got to look at it, and like I said, I'm not surprised. I kind of expect this. And then my company line, if we're going to have a company line at this point, for me, because I had a couple beers already, is that give me till Labor Day. We're going to temper it till Labor Day. And now, as you look forward to the scrimmage this weekend and whatever else, is hope these guys stay healthy, man. Because now Van Roten's banged up. What happens there? I mean, I don't know how the Jets don't have like 13 receivers trying out in the parking lot right now to have to hopefully get in there by tomorrow. Because even and the one thing is you have to get them in the whole COVID testing, all this stuff. That's got to be in the pipeline now. The the Seahawks are bringing in Paul Richardson, the guy they've had before in the past. There's guys out there. Yep. There's more guys than Dante Moncrief and fucking DeAndre Tompkins, whatever the hell his name is, and Kevin White that hasn't played in 2 years. Dude, it should be every day. I'd like to see, when they had the tryouts by Howard Balzer, boom, Jets, 5 receivers. Okay, cool. But now it's now we have to go sign somebody because Lawrence Cager's down. What about the other guys that are all banged up?
Dude, we've been talking about this for weeks, so.
This video doesn't get such shitty responses, and I really don't care. I'm
Dude,
not
you know what? Like you said, I don't care either because we've been good for the last few weeks. We've been nice. We've held back. We haven't gone in on Gase. We haven't gone in on a lot of shit with these injuries. But dude, the Gase Le'Veon Bell situation, that bothers me to no end because that's just basic communication. That's being a head coach. That's knowing your players, and to allow that to go on social media and everything that happened last year that you worried about, to be here in training camp.
And it's it's not even the first time. They went through it last year. We've already been down this. Did nobody learn from this?
Yep.
So, like I said, we're going to keep up doing these videos. There's a big practice this weekend. We'll start cranking out videos. Any story breaks out, we'll keep giving our feedback. And again, it's, there's not a lot to talk about because we can't get a lot of information. The team, they offer a little bit. A lot of guys that go to practice, they can't report a lot of things they see because they're not allowed to. So we kind of decipher that. And listen, it is what it is. We'll just keep trying to do the best we can with these and see what happens. It's 18 days, dude. Jesus Christ. This is just a fiasco.
Can't wait.
There's so many red flags, dude. There's so many warning signs of things. As a fan, you're so excited to see football. I cannot wait till opening day. Even the Thursday night game. My fantasy football draft is next Friday. I'm excited about all these things. But when you sit back and have this conversation with you about this team, you're like, dude.
And dude, the shame of it is that there's an extra playoffs team this year. You would think all right, we have an extra shot, probability, I I don't know. Like best case scenario, we're probably 7-9, 8-8. That's probably not getting it done. So.
I just think they're going to start off slow. I just think these first 3-4 weeks of football are going to be so bad for them. It's going to be sloppy, injury riddled, just penalties. Like, because the one thing offensive line struggles. What do? Commit penalties. They hold, they grasp, they block in the back. They do.
Hold on. Like 3 of our starters haven't committed a penalty in like 4 years, so we should.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, what are we worried about?
Yeah.
What are we worried about? Playoffs.
Playoffs.
Good talking to you, man.
Yep.